ready, and what are we talking about?
Rings of Power.
Excellent. The better Rings of Power. That's a take.
Hot.
Welcome to... Nope.
Welcome to Nope.
Nope.
Oh.
Welcome... Nope. Welcome to Was It Good, the podcast that reviews movies and TV shows. Today we are taking a look at House of the Dragon Season 1 as a whole and the finale of House of Dragon. I'm Ravi, and as always, I'm joined by my two brothers,
Arjuna.
And Krishna.
And usually we ask the question of, was it good at the end? But today I want to ask the question right at the start and see if I can convince you all to join my side.
Wow.
So we'll start with Krishna. Krishna,
Oh.
was House of the Dragon as a whole, the whole season, was it good?
Hell yeah, it was good. It was dramatic. It was great. It was best of Game of Thrones.
Wait,
No.
best season of any Game of Thrones?
Well, it's not. I'm saying it's like it takes everything that was so good in Game of Thrones and put most of it into this series, and I liked that. Arjuna, was season 1 of House of the Dragon good?
Yes, it was. It was an entertaining ride. I'm back into Thrones. I'm very excited for what is to come.
Heartache,
Probably. I mean, yes.
most likely.
But
Yes.
I'm ready for my heart to be broken
Yes.
again.
Not because of like characters, characters that you enjoy and like to see, and then tragically being murdered or failing, whatever. But because HBO will just cut corners with their new owner, Discovery, and just ruin the show.
Oh.
Well, this isn't an HBO Max thing. This is the HBO.
Right. But Discovery is
thing.
still
Sure, but
part of the whole thing.
But I also think Discovery. I think the whole thing is smart enough to realize like Thrones is a staple franchise for this brand in particular. Like this is like a Marvel or a Star Wars for Disney, right? Like I mean, I guess those brands also cut corners, but you shouldn't.
As you were saying that, you were like,
point has fallen
"Fuck."
apart.
Well, the point is though. The point
Kind of
is,
like Aemond at the end.
The
There?
point is, nothing else in the franchise will get as much money as this. So this is the best money-wise we can get.
This is the best money can do.
Yes.
The best that money can buy.
Yes. Ravi.
Mm.
Was House of the Dragon. Let me try
Wow.
that again.
Okay.
Start the whole pot over.
Start it over.
Start it
No.
over from the top.
Was House of the Dragon season 1 good?
No, it was. I
The fuck is wrong with you?
Nothing is wrong with me. No, it wasn't. It was just. I mean, I know that Game of Thrones is a very slow series. Like, obviously, the actual original Game of Thrones.
Wait,
took
you thought
forever.
this was slow?
I thought this was slow. Just a lot of just yappity yaps. And a lot
Wait,
of
you thought this first season
Yeah.
was slow?
And there's a reason. It's because my brain is so attuned to like the TikTok like style of content now, where it's just swipe, new thing. I no longer can enjoy.
It's funny because
something
the biggest complaint about the show is it's
too fast.
too fast.
Yeah, I know.
They jump too much. There's not enough
Yep.
character development, and you're like, it's too slow.
It's too slow for my.
So you
thing.
wanted them to jump 100 years.
I wanted to see more dragons. I wanted to see more cutthroatness, and there were definitely good pockets of that. But as a whole, there to me wasn't enough.
You need to go back and watch Game of Thrones because you would hate that entire
I
show.
will never watch Game of Thrones ever again, so that will never happen.
Hilarious.
But that's this. The other thing too is like the season finale just felt a little flat. Where when Game of Thrones came out the first season, because I had no idea about anything with
Sure.
Game of Thrones, that show was marketed with Sean Bean as Ned Stark.
Sure.
Sean Bean at the time was the biggest name out of that entire cast. Nobody knew who any of these kids were. I mean, they're all obviously now superstars.
Sure.
Probably in some arguments bigger than Sean Bean. And then, the first season of Game of Thrones ends with, his head falling off.
Right.
Accidentally. It's a complete accident.
Yeah.
And
Sure,
that was a
sort
big
of.
shocker, right? There was a big, like, ba-bum type, like, oh my God. And it really kind of showed you that, as like a show like Game of Thrones was doing something different where the good guys weren't always winning, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
This show, to me, needed to continue doing something a little bit more different. like Christian said, it does take the pieces out of Game of Thrones, like the good stuff,
Yeah.
like the shock stuff and the shock value. But it didn't do enough to say, like, oh, we're trying something new or whatnot, right? Like, it just felt like the same old thing. And, again, it didn't feel... That finale just felt like another episode, not like a big, oh, my God, what's going to happen type thing.
You don't get the feeling that this is going to set up everything that you want and are craving?
Yeah.
But I'm not a big...
16 dragons, and they're all dead by the end of the show.
I mean, they have to be, right?
Yeah, so you're in for it.
Yeah.
But
There's
again,
going to be
the
big
other
dragon
thing is, like,
battles.
I'm
There's going to be a
never-
lot
I'm
of
also not,
cutthroat
like-
shit.
But I'm
People
also
getting
just like,
eaten.
This almost feels like I think you want to reset your expectations almost in terms of, even though this was marketed as a season 1, this almost feels like a season 0, right? In terms of
like a prequel.
yeah, this is like
A
the
prologue.
setup, right? This is the
Yeah.
prologue to the conflict, to the Dance of
war.
Dragons. That is this event in history is called within Game of Thrones.
Not to mention a bunch of resetting of ideas like that Targaryens came across for the purpose of the White Walkers.
Yeah.
That the Greens were believing that they actually had the king's blessing was not known. Like, there's a lot of bombs dropped in this season.
But hold on, let me finish. The other thing, though, is I don't care about fantasy stuff. Like, that's the biggest thing, right? That's why I'm going to say, like, I'm not a big fan of fantasy content like this, because we've got tons of Game of Thrones, right? It ended poorly. I am still butthurt about that. So I don't trust that this show is going to do anything magnificent or amazing. Like, I don't care about this dragon thing or whatever. It's like, honestly, I'm watching it because we have the pod and it's the most discussed thing,
Sure.
you know, on the internet. In terms of like enjoyment, it's you know, I can take it or leave it. Like, it's not
So-
like it's,
Wait. When you say, I'm confused. When
Yeah.
you say the dragon thing, what do you mean?
you know, the big dragon event, the Dance of the Dragons or whatever.
Well, it's just
thing.
war, which
Right.
is what you said you wanted, right? The dragons fighting each other.
Yeah.
That's coming. This
Right,
is what's
but
happening.
Yeah.
I thought
you
we
got
were-
a
That's
taste
what the
of
whole
that
thing is
with the
about.
big fucking dragon destroying the little fucking
that little
And
dragon.
like pieces. When have we ever seen a dragon eat another dragon?
Never.
Well,
Well, at least not.
DreamWorks Dragon Show.
What?
How to
The-
Train Your Dragon?
How to Train Your
They
Dragon.
didn't
Which is a
eat
great
one?
movie.
Yeah, there's the big dragon that eats like a couple of the other
Yeah, but
dragons.
it's not that graphic.
No, it's a kids show. Of course, it's not going to be that graphic.
What do you want?
So wait, let me get this straight.
Sure.
So Ravi, so basically it sounds like there was too much talking, not enough action.
Correct. But
I mean,
that's the thing.
that
Though, is
tracks
like
for
everyone's
Ravi.
saying, like, "Oh, it's coming, it's coming." I'm not
Yeah.
a patient human being. Like, if I don't
Clearly.
see it in this first season, then I might follow the Krishna strategy, because I'm starting to believe his strategy of how he consumes content is actually genius. He waits until he knows when we're doing a pod taping, and then he binges it all at once. He doesn't seem to care about the week to week or like knowing. And I think that might be like the new strategy going forward.
I mean, that's how I.
Maybe
did
I'll
this
actually
whole
enjoy
season.
these things more
I
than
binged it.
I mean, binge helps eliminate
Always-
any type
yeah.
of
Yeah.
questions or like criticisms you have, because
Yep.
you just go right to the next one.
Yeah.
But then if you really like it, you're focusing in on all the things you like, and if you really hate it, then you can focus in on all the
Things that you
hate.
really hate. Yeah.
Oh, that's insightful.
Yeah, that's the binge model. So really, like, you really hope it's good. As a creator, you're like, I really hope they like it, because if they don't, then I'm really fucked.
then I'm screwed.
Then you're fucked.
I guess here's the other thing: if you really hate it, if you finish it, you're hate watching at that point.
Yeah?
If you,
Oh yeah, I mean that would be brutal if
Yeah.
it was bad and you had to binge it.
yeah.
Have you been there, Krishna?
No, I don't binge things that I don't like so far, and
Oh.
hopefully never will.
Wait, have you
So-
come to a point where you, like, I guess it hasn't happened because we've done all the pods that we've stated that we would do, but has there been something recently that you've watched where you're like, oh my God, I'm just going to lie about watching the episodes, Google it, and then jump to the finale?
No,
Open
I haven't
honest
done
time,
that.
guys.
I did finish Westworld, but I felt that way with some of Westworld as
Yeah,
we were kind
definitely
of getting to the end.
Westworld was
Westworld was really like
tough.
I blame you.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's fine.
I'm with Krishna.
I'm. That's so shocking to me. As we're getting off topic a little bit, but Westworld,
Pretty
I
show.
liked that season. God.
Oh, the third. Well, I mean, the third season of Westworld is still, I think, better than
the four- it
fourth
was-
season.
it was
It's
fourth
still
season.
better than the third season for
Yeah.
sure. But yeah, it was tough to watch because there was a lot of filler and
A lot of talking.
Yeah, a lot of talking. A lot of yap. Let's not call it talking. It's yapping. You're just yapping to fill time.
Do you think
I
that's
thought
a
the
sign?
first half of that season was better than the second half.
Yeah, definitely. Up until the reveal of Caleb.
Yeah,
And then afterwards it fell.
The back half was like a bit of a drag for me. But
well, then fine. So it's basically then the point of this pod, let's be honest, is you guys convincing me it was good. So let's hear your pitches.
Go.
On the spot pitches. Go.
I don't think you're going to change your mind somehow. I think you're pretty.
I mean, I'll
pretty.
start.
You seem pretty locked in.
You did say you don't like fantasy stuff like this.
It's true.
Yeah, you like Lord of the Rings fantasy stuff.
Which I'm trying to. I think the big difference too with
You like more defined good versus evil, because that's what Lord of the Rings is.
Right.
House of the Dragon is everyone is gray and there's tits and dragons.
and then there's also like
And this tits.
But there's also there also feels like there's a factor of like shock value in Game of Thrones where we're gonna show you the grotesque stuff.
Yeah,
And I can't decide, is that
they
an
did.
HBO thing or is that a George R.R. Martin thing? Learman,
It's
like
both.
definitely jump in on
It's
on
a
both.
it's a
Both.
Martin
It's-
thing
it's-
for
it's a
It's a
sure.
Martin thing.
Oh yeah,
He has a lot of like
He likes to
parental
dig into
issues, doesn't he?
yeah. I mean, that's why the Game of Thrones and HBO marriage
perfect
works so
marriage.
well, right? Because HBO pushes the boundaries, right? They are the like, this is the most intense thing you'll see on
Right.
television.
Yeah.
Because they'll push that and
Childbirth.
And Game of Thrones was always created and written that way of like,
Right.
this is not your Lord of the Rings. And he has much love for Lord of the Rings. He's talked about that numerous times of how Tolkien is, the inspiration in a lot of ways. But
Yeah.
he's like, I set out to make something that was
Dark.
Yeah, a Song of Ice
so-
and Fire is sort of an answer to Lord of the Rings, or
Yeah.
like his
response
response to it.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
it's shaped by his impressions of what Tolkien wrote.
That's your pitch then, or
No, that was Christian's. That was
Yeah,
Christian's
think of it
question.
as like dark Lord of the Rings. Like you should really like it. If you like Lord of the Rings, think of Game of Thrones as Lord of the Rings for adults, where the heroes kill people and fuck women.
wow, that's
I mean-
a pitch.
Yeah, I don't know if I would go as far as that, because Lord of the Rings is you've got godlike figures doing
Right.
shit. And I think the strength of Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon is you've got very human people doing bad with a lot of power politically, doing bad stuff. So for me, that's a key difference. Another thing that I was really drawn to, I thought, was the acting in this show. I never watched Doctor Who, but you can color me a Matt Smith stan now.
Christian, are you going to go back and watch
Wait,
the
no.
Doctor Who
I'm
seasons
sorry,
now?
wait, no,
Do
no.
it!
Yeah,
wait,
11
no.
was my
Can you
first Doctor.
Can you repeat that one more time for me, please, Krishna?
Matt Smith is a great actor.
Wow.
You know, if I had to watch all that nonsense to get to this point, it was worth it.
All right, Christian.
And therefore, Game of Thrones, The House of the Dragon was good.
Christian, here we have some homework for you.
I did
Christian,
it.
you did it. You did
I
it.
have 3 things for you to watch. Doctor Who, the 11th
No.
Doctor's run, Morbius, which has
Oh,
Matt Smith,
yep.
and
Oh,
Terminator
God.
Genesis,
Doesn't he
which
say-
also has.
Doesn't he say
Oh,
it's Morbid
I
time?
missed that too.
You know what? I've seen that movie and I can't remember.
I just watched it. It does not happen. Nobody says
So
Morbid
that's
time.
something the internet came up
Yeah.
with?
Yeah.
Nice.
The internet.
Well,
critic.
actually, I've heard, because I mean, I'm not, again, like when it comes to the fantasy and family dynamics of like who owns the crown and the throne, I'm not a huge fan, obviously, but Matt Smith is also in the Netflix's The Crown, and I
Oh,
heard he's
yeah.
like really, really good in that as
He
well.
was.
So, I mean, actually, for you, Christian, like maybe you can take the plunge into that series, and if you like Game of Thrones,
And the Queen. You're a
And Matt
huge
Smith.
fan of the Queen.
yeah, aren't you a fan?
A fan of the Queen? No, you're mistaking me for my mother.
You're a royalist, aren't you?
I'm what?
A
A royalist? I don't know if that's a thing.
No.
He's a royalist.
Don't you also like looking up conspiracy theories around the
Around.
the royal
Yeah.
family?
Yeah, I'm the opposite of a royalist loyalist. I think the royal family are all cannibals.
Oh wow! Hey, you said something about Lord of the Rings being godlike. Oh, question: Who are often the bad people in Lord of the Rings?
Sauron and his generals, the Nazgul.
Who are the Nazgul?
I mean, they're like immortal men at this point. They were men,
Yeah.
but they've gone beyond. They've gone beyond that now.
I feel like Tolkien addresses men as a lot of the bad. They're the ones that side with
that's
Sauron.
definitely still there. But like the men in Lord of the Rings, the mortals, are being commanded and corrupted by a very otherworldly power. Whereas in Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon, it's just human corruption. There's nothing to blame except
The stranger.
human vice, you know. And of course, that's still like a thing in Lord of the Rings. But there is a dark force that corrupts.
So are you saying you
Evil!
like the excuse?
What do you mean?
Well, in Lord of the Rings, there's sort of an excuse. Like, oh, man's
Yeah.
not bad themselves. They were corrupted by something purely evil, whereas Game of Thrones is like evil exists in the gray
Yeah.
of men's
They
decisions.
both work. I'm not saying one's better than the other, but for me, that's a key difference between the two. And that's why I would say like Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon is a bit more like mature, a bit more grounded in reality, you know, a little closer to reality than Lord of the Rings.
No, it's not. They're dragons.
Well, you said a
Yeah,
bit.
that's
You didn't say completely.
That's the dressing around.
Wait, hold on a second.
The
What
conflict.
if really like there's actually no dragons and like this Targaryen family thinks there are dragons? So like there's an episode where it's through the eyes of like a commoner, and these people are actually just like riding like giant horses or something.
Ravens.
And they think it's
The
dragons.
Raven guy.
Or they're just like
Oh,
running
God.
around like with their arms out going, "Rawr!"
Oh my god!
I mean, the
That would
fa-
be,
the
it would be a very
Targaryen-
different show.
The Targaryens, right? There's all that incest and gross craft and everything, so they are like a little mentally not all there in the head. So yeah, maybe there are no actual dragons.
This is all just in an
It's all in their
asylum
head.
somewhere.
Now that's the show I could get behind.
Now that's showcasting.
But let's dive a little bit more into the finale. I think there was, for me anyway, I will say the finale was pretty good. It was interesting. It definitely
You said it fell flat for you.
it does that ending falls flat.
Ravi just flip flopped real hard. Right
It does feel like in terms of the ending and how you end a season, that was a flat ending.
Well, you thought the ending was flat with a
Yes.
dragon killing another dragon, and then you get the shot of Rhaenyra turning around and like having that determined look of like war is now here.
Well, she was staring at me and I felt uncomfortable.
Perfect.
That
That's a
was
you
probably the point.
Well, then they did a great job with making me feel something.
It's
for
like that
once.
episode
So
of
that
The
it's not
Simpsons.
flat.
Anyway, I will say though the parts that were kind of interesting in that episode were around. What was it around? Oh, the big one with the song of Fire and Ice and Daemon not knowing about it.
Sure.
And I believe that's not in the books at all, right? Or I guess the entire story of the Song of Fire and Ice is not in the books, or
It's not referent. It's like within the retelling of this history,
Mhm.
they don't reference that this prophecy is known to these characters in particular. So that's something that was,
specific to
either
the show.
happening that was not put into these books, or or was added for the show.
So
in
far,
terms of giving context to what's going on.
sorry. Yeah.
Go ahead.
So far, the Song of Ice and Fire is the name of the book series, and it's only been referenced as the prince that was promised, which is talked about here. But the prophecy was always, what is this mysterious thing that Rhaegar found that changed him from who he was to who he became? That ended up him stealing Lyanna or whatever her name was, the Stark girl.
Lyanna Stark.
Lyanna Stark. Yeah. So this is the prophecy that was never named what it was, but there was something that Rhaegar found, and so yeah, that's what this is. That's
Right.
never been in anything else
Right.
until the first episode of this
Right.
season.
And I think they did that partially also to connect the show more to Game of Thrones, right? In terms of you have this huge audience that's kind of sitting here, and from a marketing standpoint, yeah, even though it has the Thrones branding, you want there to be a little bit more connective tissue. So, cue the Leo meme of pointing at the screen when like Song of Fire, Ice and Fire is kind of mentioned. You're like, I know
Yeah.
that one. I know that.
I know that one.
Right.
Yeah.
Supposedly it came from Martin.
Yeah,
But-
which
but
is
I
smart,
don't know.
right?
Yeah.
He's heavily involved in the show, but like he knows like this is something we can give to the show. This is something that's also going to get audiences like engaged with the content as well as you get to know these characters and what's going on. That you kind of have this kind of callback that people who've watched 8 seasons of Game of Thrones will be like, I know what that means. I can kind of understand some of this stuff with that context.
I think the question I have is, did he always have this in mind and he just chose this as the reveal time instead of the books? Or did he do it, like you said, to try and connect it?
Only he can answer that.
I know, nobody knows. I think it changes the
Probably.
quality of it for me, too. Like,
Yeah.
if he always planned it, awesome.
Yeah.
If it was just a last-minute thing, kind of neat.
But, I guess it's interesting when you talk about he's still writing those books, right? In a lot of ways. Supposedly. So it's like it's still an evolving story in a lot of ways until it's published and out there.
He can change anything.
He can make as many changes as he wants.
He's never going to finish the books, right?
I
I
don't
know that
think
for a
so.
fact.
Let's
Like,
not
come
put
on.
that out there. He's still alive. It could happen.
It could happen, but
Or he finished it and he's going to wait until.
the
he's
last book
passed.
came out in 2011.
Yeah, so the series wrapped up in the time it took him. His last book was out a year before the series started, and he has not completed the next one since. They finished a whole series before he finished
And
the
started
book.
another one.
Yeah.
And another one.
I mean, to be fair, he wrote Fire and Blood and Blood and Fire.
Yeah, he's written a bunch of
Yeah.
additional things.
I
but
think he's
not-
bored with the Song of Ice and Fire. I think he
so.
figured out, like, oh, this is how it goes, and now I don't care.
Yeah, and I think he's seen some of those elements, not all of it, obviously, but some of it played out on screen, and it's just like, well.
Yeah. I
don't
know
need
for
to
me,
finish
like,
it.
I often lose interest in writing as soon as I know how my story is going to end.
And, right.
Wait, so he came up with his ending in his head and he's just like, I'm not going to give it to the people?
Yeah,
Maybe.
kind
Nice.
of. I've heard that
Nice.
he said in the past, like a long time ago, that he does that he'll get bored and just stop.
Oh, dear.
Oh, dear.
Sorry to sidetrack everything.
I was going to say, that was a little bit of a sidetrack there. Back into finale, did you guys have a favorite part besides a dragon eating another dragon? Tell me your favorite part from some of the yapping.
I mean, okay, I think we got the coolest war table
Ooh,
in television history. That thing was so fucking cool. I was like, we need to get one of those for D&D where we just put candles in, so we can have this like amazing table, like obsidian table that lights up in fire to reveal different parts of a map. Oh
Already
man,
working.
so good.
Somebody's got to be building that. I
This
really
got to be on
hope so.
Etsy in a few months.
100%.
I'm going to look right now. It's
Did
there.
did Stannis or any of them figure out how to turn those lights on?
Clearly not.
Yeah, I was going to say.
That's why they failed.
Yeah.
They couldn't see what they were doing.
Yeah,
I can't
yeah.
see.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean,
They never figured it out.
I liked a lot of the, like, I think I said this when we were watching it, but like the cloaks and some of the costumes and stuff were like really, really cool. Really good
Yeah.
production design. I think Rhaenyra in general was just my favorite in the finale and throughout the entire season and series as a whole. Both actresses I thought did an amazing job, and all due respect to Matt Smith, I thought he was great, but I thought like she was like the main character and like owned it and was really good at it.
Well, she is the main.
Yeah, but
character,
I'm
right?
saying I don't think people, if you knew nothing about this show, right?
Mhm.
I think people wouldn't have necessarily known she was the main character going into the show. Maybe through some of the marketing, but like I think it's her show. Like this is from the point of Rhaenyra.
Well, no,
Targaryen.
I definitely was one of those people that did not know she was the main character going into it. Like I thought, again, similar to how first season Game of Thrones was marketed, where it was Sean Bean is Ned Stark. This was very much more Matt Smith is, Daemon Targaryen. And that I actually thought it was going to end with him getting killed, and then I would have been like, oh, cool, they're copying themselves, so that's cool.
Not a great episode for Daemon.
No, he choked his wife.
Yeah, not great.
Why did he do that? Like, just because she's not listening to him and...
I think because she has stoked
Did you watch
something-
the season?
She stoked something that he doesn't know about, the Song of Ice and Fire. Like, and she even says it after she stops choking. She's like, "You didn't know. He never told you." And so there's an
Daemon-
anger there.
Because it
Da-
meant he wasn't ever the true heir.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he came to that
That's a
realization.
great point.
That makes sense.
But Daemon to me is such an interesting character because I don't think I've ever seen a character before where that's been so unpredictable from the first episode to the last. Like every time he was on screen, I just wasn't sure what he was going to do. He could have gone in so many directions because he's truly multifaceted. There was like both light and dark in him, almost in equal amounts. And so that's why him like choking Rhaenyra like at the end like that, just like, oh, like shocking but not shocking, you know?
I mean, this is a guy who killed his first wife, was sullied his brother's dead son's name the night that he died. Like, so he's done a lot of good, like he's done a lot of bad things.
Horrible.
She was to say good things. He's done some good things,
I mean, is he a good character or a bad character in your minds?
He's definitely, you would say morally he's not good. But
I guess let me rephrase it.
You can't
the
look
performance
at it.
good is what you're saying.
No, I'm saying, is he written well? I guess I was asking, do you see him as a good guy or a bad guy? But then, the question is, does his unpredictability, is it in a well-written, like, oh, it's a human being who's unpredictable like we are? Or is it just a character who's not well defined?
I think he's a human being that's unpredictable, but is like in it for him, right? And I think that is at least from what I understand of this character, like what he wants changes. Very clearly, right?
He
Especially
struggles.
We're 20 years over, right? Like there are times he hates his brother, and then there are times like in episode 8 where like he's the one that goes up to his brother and helps him up.
Just like it, right? I think it's super well written because that to me that's like the most human thing is to flip flop, to struggle with with values and like what do I value right now? Is it about me or is it about my family? Right. Is it about the realm or is it about securing my bloodline, like what is it?
Like two things can be true at once, right? He loved Viserys as a brother. This was his brother. He loved him. He also thought Viserys was a shit king, right? And both things are true in a lot of ways. He's like, I love you, brother, but you're a shitty king.
Well, it's interesting
because
recognize
that.
Jaehaerys or whatever the guy's name was remembered as a good king.
Yeah.
So. Oh, Jaehaerys. The first?
His brother. Viserys.
Viserys was Daemon's
brother. Viserys.
Viserys was Daemon's
Which is
brother.
interesting because Viserys is the name of the brother of Daenerys, who is so terrible.
Yes.
It's interesting to see.
They use all the same names.
But the way Martin mirrors names.
Right.
Aemon Targaryen. Aegon was Jon Snow.
Well, isn't that how this whole situation came to be?
Yeah, she thought it was his Aegon, but it's not. It's
that's why there's so many Aegons.
Yeah. So this is why you use last names.
Well, they're all Targaryen.
They're all
Targaryen. They're fucked.
Well, some.
What are their middle names? Yeah, let's bring in some middle names.
I don't know if there are any middle names.
I think it's just a number.
Yes, it's usually numbered. Yeah,
3.
But then
4.
But there's also like when they're announced, like first of their name, second
of his
yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
So like Aegon, right, is listed as second or first?
Yeah, Aegon the second.
Oh yeah, the current king is the second Aegon.
Second of
his
and then the Rhaenyra's Aegon would be the third then, right?
And then I believe Jon Snow.
It's like the 17th,
is
probably.
the 4th or the 5th of his name.
Well, so that's a show thing. We don't know. For
which
sure.
version or numbered he.
We don't know what his
Aegon
name is.
The 17th.
I think there's some who believe it should not actually be Aegon. Like it's supposed to be something else.
It's supposed to be Jonathan Snow.
Interesting.
Who is you're drawing like obviously like parallels to Game of Thrones. There are a couple of characters that you could easily see are similar to the archetypes and everything that we see in Game of Thrones. Have we seen our Jon Snow yet? Or is anyone
Kristen
of
Cole?
quality?
Oh hell! I mean, I think at least in the early episodes they wanted you to think Kristen was kind of a Jon Snow-esque type character, but then he takes this. He kind of breaks bad when Rhaenyra's like, "You're my whore," essentially, and then he goes nuts.
Well, and for honor, so in a sense, he is like the result of what Jon Snow would be if he did not have a moral guiding compass like his stepfather or his uncle.
Exactly.
Stark. Yeah.
Right. If he didn't have Ned, which is interesting.
And Daemon's kind of an interesting allegory to like Jaime in that sense.
Yeah, I
of
think
like,
Daemon's definitely Jaime in a lot of ways in terms of like
I feel like it's Aegon.
What?
No, not
Aemon.
Aemon.
Aemond is Jaime.
The one-eyed guy.
He
kid.
kind of reminds me of
No.
the Hound or the Hound's
Yeah.
brother in a sense. like,
But in terms of like Daemon having this kind of weird moral compass, like Jaime had a weird moral compass too, of like he would do some like really awful things.
throw
but
kids
then-
out of building.
Yeah, but then he also like did some like good things as well.
Slightly redeeming, slightly.
Yeah, and you could
Yeah.
kind of track Daemon in the same way. Now the question is, will he go the way of Jaime and just like die?
What an interesting end that was.
Oh wait, I mean, all of season 8 was terrible, right? Like every
There were some good moments.
every character and how their final was just literally like rocks falling on them, and it's like, okay, that's it. Granted, it was a dragon blowing up a whole city, but still.
Yeah, it was. That was. You're right. It's weird. Season 8 was like interesting to see where, like, that's where it probably ends. But like, you needed 3 more seasons to get there.
It felt like a little bit of rushed fanfic.
Speaking of like Game of Thrones and everything, I don't know if you guys saw that social post that went out about like the most terrible or evilest characters of like the whole Throne universe, and someone put Sansa Stark on there.
I didn't see that.
Oh boy.
It was pretty good.
Who
Oh,
would you
boy.
say is the most evil in your opinions?
The most evil,
It's got to be
hands
what's his
down,
name?
is George R. Martin for creating
The creator
this
of this
nonsense.
universe.
Who's the guy that
The
tortures? What's his name?
Hote?
Raimi?
No.
No.
I think the most evil character is easily Hot Pie.
Pie.
He just wanted his pie.
No, I'm
sick
completely
son of a
forgetting his name.
bitch.
In the Battle of the Bastards, right? It's Jon Snow. Ramsay
Oh,
Bolton.
Ramsay, there we
Ramsay Bolton is the most evil character.
I thought he was a nice man.
He raped Sansa Stark. He cut off the dick of a man. He killed Rickon Stark. He did a lot of bad stuff.
They're all bad.
I mean, granted, Rickon
like,
did
did
not
nothing
zigzag. Rickon killed himself.
I mean, sure.
Yeah, Rickon was too stupid to live.
There was nothing like every character had like some form of redemption or some form of excuse at the
Right.
very least. There's nothing.
Well, Daenerys too, right? Like the show starts out where your team, Daenerys, and then by the end she's murdering innocent people with a dragon.
Sure, but at least you can understand a little bit of how she got there.
Totally.
They don't do any. They
No,
didn't do
of
anything
course.
for Ramsay to
No.
understand how
He's
necessarily
psychotic.
got
His
well, so-
father was
Daenerys.
his father was the
Wait,
reason.
wasn't his father responsible for the Red Wedding or partly
Yeah.
responsible for it?
like the Bolton
Yeah,
family.
the Bolton family.
Yeah.
Their sigil was the flayed man. They were known for just skinning their
They were just
enemies
horrible people.
alive.
Bolton, same
Bolt
as
on.
the musician,
Yes,
same family.
they're related.
Yeah,
okay,
for
gotcha.
sure.
Okay,
No.
because Game
Michael
of Thrones is
Bolton?
real history, right?
Michael Bolton.
we had dragons back in the day.
Oh my
I
goodness.
mean,
Yeah.
people believe we had dinosaurs, so why wouldn't they believe we had dragons?
Same thing.
Yeah,
is
exactly.
Middle Earth before or after Game of Thrones?
I think it's in a galaxy far,
Sure.
far away.
Oh, Coruscant is Middle Earth.
Yeah,
becomes-
definitely. And,
Do you think a reason you didn't like the finale
Mhm.
is because Patty Constantine
Constantine?
Constantine?
wasn't
No.
it wasn't in it? Viserys was dead.
Ooh.
Ooh,
Because to me,
he made.
he was
the
a really
glue.
great part of.
He was the glue for the show.
Yeah.
But that makes sense that he would be the glue, and then when the glue's gone, chaos.
everything falls apart.
Everything just literally falls apart.
So-
yeah. So
Yeah, Ryan Condal, one of the showrunners, talked about the finale and
Yeah.
episode 9 kind of being a dual finale, right?
Right.
Episode 9 was from the perspective of the Greens. Episode 10 was from the perspective of the Blacks, mostly. You know,
Yeah.
there's obviously a couple instances here.
Well, there's the
where-
crossover event at the end.
yeah, the crossover. The crossover everyone wanted.
Shit.
Now this is pod race.
But yeah, I mean, Viserys was like it was like a masterclass, right? A lot of people really feel like Patty should get like an Emmy for his
Oh, wow.
performance and everything.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of like, this is great. Like, he was kind of the Ned Stark-esque character of the
Yeah.
first season in terms of like his death unravels everything, which is true, right? His death unravels everything within the show. And I was kind of curious, like, once he was not in the show, does the show suffer? And I don't think it suffers necessarily, but it is a stark shift.
I will say though, like him not being in the show is very similar to how it felt from Game of Thrones season 1 to season 2,
Yeah.
where there was no more Ned Stark, no
Right.
more Sean Bean.
And you have to recalibrate.
Great, you got to figure out like whose view. But I think the show's done a good job where since the get go, you've really been looking through the eyes of
Rhaenyra.
Rhaenyra. and to a degree, you know, a couple of other characters, like her friend, you know, the
Alicent.
yeah, like through their eyes, I think they've done a good job. So I don't think it's gonna be as drastic, but I also think that's because, you know, they've got really, really good actors and actresses to like play these characters, so they can stand on their own. They don't need, you know, anybody else. Honestly, and you know, this is a me problem. Honestly, like everyone's, you know, the big dragon thing at the end. To me, it also kind of sucked because visually it looked so corny. Especially when they're riding the dragons
In the rain.
and there's
It looked like green screen.
it was really bad, but they also like the maniacal like laughter of Aemond just looked really corny and cheesy. Like I get he's laughing, he's trying to play a prank or whatever or scare his nephew.
Yeah.
Like I get that, but like it just looked really bad for a show that, you know, prides itself on high visuals, high production value, and then that was the whole thing. And it's like, okay,
It's like a
that's
Final
where
Fan-
like when I say like it fell flat, that's the flat. I mean, the dragon fell flat.
Ironic.
Definitely fell flat.
Fell
Well,
flat and
it fell into pieces.
pieces.
Flat into the ocean.
It was like a Final Fantasy boss fight in a way.
Kind of.
The laughing.
Is
as it
there
comes back.
a Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon video game?
Yes, there is.
Oh,
I've
that's
never
awkward.
played
Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I don't know if it's good.
Well, I think Telltale Games.
I
made
like to pretend. I mean, I know with Age of Empires 4, you can get like mods and change and add like, you know, the Starks and
They do that,
Lannisters,
yeah.
which is kind of cool.
Oh, sweet.
Did it Age of Empires or Conquest?
Age of
Kings?
Empires.
Or what's that one? Conquering Kings or Kings? Do you know what I'm talking
Age of
about?
Kings?
Age of Kings, maybe.
Maybe, yeah, one of the ones. There's a lot out there.
Can we talk about the dragon fight and the read on it in terms of Aemon's reaction?
Mhm.
Because I think what is interesting is it seems like they, at least how I interpreted it, is they both seem to lose control of their dragons.
Mhm.
They kind of go rogue, and then this happens, and you kind of get this last shot of Aemon looking sad,
No,
upset,
He was
shocked.
And also,
Yeah.
it's like he looked like, oh shit, what have I done? Like, we're in big trouble. I just started a war.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Didn't quite mean to do that.
His whole thing since the get-go was, you know, he always wanted to cut out the eye of this kid or this
Sure.
whatever, because of what he did when they were kids. And he also, I think, likes the idea that he has the largest dragon. He's bigger. He invokes fear in, you know, these, you know, his nephews or whatever. But you have to also remember at the end of the day, he is still an immature child.
Sure.
The 30-year-old, 13-year-old.
Yeah, the
30-year-old,
Yeah.
16-year-old,
The
or
30-year-old,
something.
16-year-old.
And I think, yeah, he definitely did not mean to kill his nephew.
Do you think you said
Like,
he
it
was
wasn't
going to
done on purpose. Yeah.
You said he was going to do a prank. Do you think it was a prank? Do you think he was really going to take the eye?
I
So
think
the way I interpret like a prank in this world is, yeah, taking somebody's eye is
you
a
would take
prank.
an eye. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not like a
Prankster,
like a
bro.
whoopee cushion. It's like, no, I'm gonna take your fucking eye out.
Yeah.
What was in his eye?
Oh yeah.
It
Well,
was
Oh,
some
that
type
was
of gem,
cool.
right?
yeah. I
It
don't know if
looked kind of White Walker-esque.
yeah. That's what I
you know?
was like. Is it a White Walker
But
thing?
I don't think it is.
Honestly, when I first saw it, I was like, did they forget to like? It was supposed to be like some type of CG that they kind of forgot about. Like,
But it swirls at one point, I
it
feel
was,
like.
it was strange.
Yeah,
was very
it looked
strange.
like a crystal, right? Like a glowing crystal thing.
It's Ethereum
Speaking of
from Black Adam.
Eternium.
Eternium, that's
Okay.
right.
Speaking of things in eyes, so there's actually another video that was posted recently. A guy lost his eye, unfortunately, and what he did was he put a like flashlight that he can control by like blinking or doing a certain thick combo to turn on a flashlight.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Kind of like mechanics of
I respect it.
bioengineering or something.
Yeah. I thought with that, just going back to that dragon fight one more time, I thought it was really interesting that both of these young Targaryens lost control of their dragons. And, you know, you would think that means something. In an upcoming war with a bunch of dragons, having dragons that not all of them listen to their masters is probably a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
I'm so curious to see how, you know, what that means, how it plays out. And also, we got that shot of Daemon at the end confronting that other dragon,
A wild dragon, yeah.
a wild dragon, and Daemon seemingly is very confident and has like maximum skills with taming dragons. It seems so. I'm curious to see how that plays out. Like the younger Targaryens, are they like inexperienced? Are they just less skillful? Are they not pure Targaryens? I don't know.
I think it's the youth, right? And I think
the youth.
Daemon's flaw in his thinking is like, we have more dragons, we have more dragon riders, but it's like
There's an experience.
most of the dragon riders in this world, as of right now, are very youthful, and most
20
of them
or under
have never seen battle. Or
yeah, most
war,
of the
right?
haven't.
So the dragons are kind of in charge, not the riders themselves, right? Because a lot of these dragons are like super, super old. Like that giant one that tore the little one apart. Like that dragon is an older dragon and has seen stuff and has
Vhagar,
seen war,
right?
Yeah.
Vhagar, yeah.
And so it will be interesting to kind of see. And then like the one that Lucerys had, who died, Arrax. Eric.
Eric.
Another
Eric.
Eric. Yeah.
Yeah.
3
But
Erics.
like it was a really young dragon, right?
Right.
So like not only was the rider an experience, but the dragon was an experience. And they showed that a little bit in the rain, where like the dragon was like
freaking out.
was like struggling to like fly in the rain, right? So then it's like, oh, I see this big dragon. I'm gonna go shoot fire at it.
What a
'Cause that's
stupid
smart.
dragon.
Yeah.
Why would you attack a dragon
Well, I don't think it
that
was
is
just
10 times bigger than you?
Well, that was the rider. That was
No. That was
He
that
was
was
just
a
like,
dragon.
no.
Because then he's in
like,
in
Arrax,
Valerian.
no.
He's like, no, I'm doing this,
Yeah.
and then the bigger dragon starts doing the same thing, and then
Yeah.
Aemond is like, no, I am your master. You listen
Yeah.
to
Serve me.
serve me, and
They
it
both
doesn't
say
happen.
it,
And then
yeah.
it's just like, no.
I saw a hilarious meme this morning of Daenerys on Drogon,
Rhaegar.
Drogon, as she's like blasting the city, and she's like, "No, Drogon, no, I'm the master." Listen,
I saw,
the whole Game of Thrones
I
was
saw
a
another one that just had
misunderstanding.
the dragon, and it just says "fuck them kids."
yeah. Michael Jordan.
Oh, the meme game for this show is on point.
I mean, that's the
On
main game is
point.
like that's the other thing that's always funny, especially like sports Twitter handles will mine the hell out of this. Like I saw one this morning where the last shot of Rhaenyra staring at the camera and you feel uncomfortable, and somebody had captioned it with, I guess the Steelers had a really bad time last night or yesterday, and it was like Steeler fans in the morning or whatever. So
Yeah.
it's
Accurate.
a cultural, social, memeable thing. So
Love it. So, have we changed your mind, Ravi? Is it good now?
we're getting somewhat close.
What?
Like, I think the final straw to determine if I'm gonna change my mind on this, I think it has to come from what is gonna happen, what's next, what's the bold predictions for this show, where are we going?
Well, I think so.
Someone will
Obviously,
die.
the show ends with big Tully, Baratheon, and Stark implications, right? So you would think that the next season is going to involve a lot of allies, and then allies backstabbing, flip flopping, changing sides and whatnot.
Snip snap, snip snap.
Yeah, flip. Yeah, real quick. The Targaryens and the Valerians are the only ones with dragons. Is that correct?
Yeah, that I'm
Yes.
aware of.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I
so
was just
Bob
curious
can't
about
go
that.
get a dragon.
So like Bob Stark can't have a dragon.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you would think it's gonna be a lot of the ally stuff coming, and then big dragon battles and death and more probably incest stuff. So yeah,
That's your
my-
bold
those-
prediction.
Oh, are we doing actual bold?
Yeah,
predictions? Oh,
you gotta sell me here. Like I said, the whole the final thing to decide if I'm gonna change my mind is I need to hear excite me, tickle my
Tickle my pickle.
tickle your. I don't want to tickle your pickle. I don't want to. I gotta think if someone else has a bold prediction.
What's yours, bold predictions, Rav?
for next season.
Yeah. What do you have? What do you want to see? What would
This
make it
is
good
what
for
I
you?
want to see. Okay, and I'm gonna get very, very specific because if these things don't happen, then automatically season 2, I'm just gonna say no. The first episode, they need to change the formula. The first episode needs to start with just goddamn bloodshed, dragons and fireballs flying everywhere, people being blown up, structures exploding, just not like an hour. Like, you remember the Battle of the Bastards battle?
You want that in episode 1?
In episode 1, but dragons everywhere and shit. And that's number 1.
And shit.
I mean, imagine you're on the battlefield. Would you not be shitting yourself?
I would
Yeah.
run.
I believe.
I would literally
I
not
would.
be there.
Yeah, I probably. would.
So that's number 1. Number 2 that needs to happen. We need to. I need. This is gonna sound strange, but I need to see the White Walkers. They need to
What?
do something with White Walkers, and the whole reason is because and this is also why I'm still butthurt. The whole reason, like, I found Game of Thrones interesting in the first place, I don't give a fuck about the whole battle for the throne and all that crap. It was the White Walkers. Like, that thing with them, the mystery behind it was so interesting.
You
to
need
me.
a mystery box.
Yeah, I need mystery box, and I think it has to come in the form of the White Walkers, because then, to me, it's a way to kind of redeem what happened with the ending of Game of Thrones, because at least I'll get something behind it, and maybe that's even a way for me to maybe one day in the future rewatch Game of Thrones. So those are like the 2 main things that need to happen. Otherwise, it's not.
So was that what was missing for you from House of the Dragon?
Yeah,
Like,
there's no
now
mystery.
unpacking it, there's no mystery to it.
There's no mystery.
You like
to it.
fantasy with mystery. That's why you liked Rings of Power.
Yeah,
That's why you kind of
exactly.
like Lord of the Rings a little bit. There's mystery elements.
Yeah,
to it.
there's something to kind of like keep you going. This season's very much, they're bad, that's bad. The, yapping everywhere. Like, there's just no, like, there's nothing hidden or whatever, like the mystery and everything.
like the cat.
there's no cat.
For our audio listeners, Megatron the cat just jumped onto Ravi's lap. He nestled with the microphone for a second. Now he's just looking around. He's looking right at me. I'm scared.
It's like he owns the
looked right into
place.
the camera. Oh man.
Do you have a bold prediction?
I don't.
What the fuck? Okay.
Well, it's a little tricky. I read ahead a little bit. I know some
Oh.
things that are going to happen. So I'm trying to like not spoil anything, but maybe think creatively with like what the show is going to do.
Yeah.
And okay, so here's my bold prediction. I think they'll continue to play in this greens versus the blacks format.
Okay.
And Ryan Condal, the showrunner, already came out and said there are no time jumps in the second season, right?
Oh wow, it's just a
So
straight.
It's,
Wow.
gonna be, it's just going to be linear. There's no time jumps. There's no actor changes. It is just all one thing. And I think they're going to play off this idea of what they did with the last 2 episodes, where you're going to have episodes that are from the perspective of the greens and episodes that are from the perspectives of the blacks. And I think that will frustrate a lot of viewers because it's like you're getting 2 weeks for like one story or one.
So it'll
type
be
of
even
content.
slower.
It might be slower.
Oh
yeah.
god.
Especially with no time jumps, I think
Ugh.
there will be like a pacing complaint.
Yeah.
My bold prediction. So I have not read ahead, so I don't know really anything that's coming except for one thing. So what I'm about to say is probably very wrong, and like whoever's read the book can already shoot it down. It doesn't matter. Here's the bold prediction. I think Aegon, the new king, kills Aemond in season 2. So I think right now
why?
it's sort of presented as Aemond seems like the more headstrong, or at least until the very last part of the season. Like he was all about doing his duty and wanting a dragon, being very Targaryen of him. And Aegon was the drinker, didn't want any responsibility, didn't want the throne at all. So I can see a scenario where season 2, sort of Aegon gets more and more wrapped up in his role, and eventually it comes to a head where he sees Aemond as a true threat and kills him. And then that happens in the finale, and that solidifies Aegon's hold, like him accepting his role as the king, as a ruthless tyrant.
I think there will be more deviations from the book.
Yeah.
Because they've already shown that, and I think there's going to be like even more major ones that like book readers will be kind of shocked by, because Michael probably knows this better than I do, but I believe the story, like the book is like a retelling from like a couple characters' points
It's
of
written by
views.
a maester.
Right, exactly. So which is all just like he said this. This is what I saw, type of stuff, right? So like, when you have that type of history and it's written that way,
You can change it.
there's things that can be interpreted differently. There are things that probably actually happened that could be different. They're very much presenting this as like, this is what happened, right? There's no like,
And
this is from the perspective of this character necessarily.
and that's a big deal in the Song of Ice and Fire books,
Right.
is that they didn't show in the show, is that Ned will often remember when he was Jon's age, and you'll hear the legend in an early book, and then somebody will remember the actual event,
Right.
and it's very different from the
Yeah.
legend, but it gets to the same point. And one of my favorite parts of the books is how George likes to juxtapose the legend with the reality.
Right.
So we're watching legend happen, and we're seeing what it might look like in the future by seeing old legends told.
Right.
So yeah, I think this is where that fits in really well with that.
And I think it'd be fascinating to see, and I think like that makes it rewarding for like book readers who know what's coming as well. So one last piece for the bold prediction. This is more of a request from me. I would like to see an episode centered around Eric and Eric, and just their daily lives of like the differences, and then they come and they fight, but instead of killing each other, they throw down their swords and shields and they hug and they walk away from it all.
Yeah, because there's one on each side, right?
Yeah, and they're twins. And
Are there actually two actors, or is it one actor?
I have no
It's
idea.
two.
It's
I saw a set photo. It's two. It's the actors are brothers, or I assume twins.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, if not, then that one actor just scored like a lifetime deal. Like, they'll be in every single episode. Like, dang.
Also, the effects for that, incredible.
That's where all the money went. That's why the dragons looked like shit.
The Erics had to
the
look
writing
perfect.
portion. Yeah, we have to make it perfect. Okay, okay. So and then, okay.
I think we all have all
We have
any additional bold predictions from anyone before we lock it in?
The show will come out next September.
No.
Wait, do you really think so?
I mean, they haven't started filming, right?
They start filming in January, so I think there's
No,
very
it's gonna
little
be
chance it comes out in
2024.
2023.
Oh wow, then I will definitely 100% forget about the show.
Barry's like, I
maybe
love
that's a
this
good
show.
Maybe I will actually, like, for once, go back and listen to this pod.
Yeah, what's
Like, get a recap of what the fuck happened.
So what's interesting is we just had House of the Dragon, we just had Rings of Power. We're likely not getting either next year. We're gonna have to wait a year plus.
You know what's going to happen then in 2023? I'm going to become the biggest fantasy fan in the world.
Nice.
Will we get a Wheel of Time?
Ugh.
I don't know.
No.
That's a good question.
I didn't finish it. I'm going to do that.
I heard
I haven't watched
it's also like another slow, tough.
That one
Watch.
was not well received.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Well, a lot of the book readers were not fans either.
I don't think it had many.
In general.
It's more legendary, I think, than Game of Thrones as far as fantasy fiction. So it's probably got Star Wars like fans.
Yeah,
Ooh.
Well, then it's toxic and it's
That sounds rough.
Right.
just like the Tolkien fans.
All right, let's run it back then. Let's do the big question, and I guess we'll do it twice now. Was the finale good, and then was it as a whole good?
Yes.
All right.
Who wants to?
I'll
You
go-
should
I'll go
start.
first,
You
yeah.
should go last, so you should start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Agreed.
Krishna, was House of the Dragon season 1 finale good, and was House of the Dragon the first season good?
Well, Ravi, you convinced me. They were both terrible. I'm lying. They were both great. I love them. Actually,
love them?
so
Wow.
Real quick, we didn't do one-word impressions, but if we had, my one-word impression would have been shocked, because I was shocked at how much I enjoyed this season. And if we were to do a hypothetical ranking of all the shows that are out right now, for me, it would be number one.
Whoa.
Wait, more than Rings of Power?
For me, yes, and for me, that's shocking. I'm absolutely.
I'm shocked. That's the most shocking thing we've said.
My
on the pod
one-word
today.
impression
Yeah.
for this whole piece would be, I am sick to my stomach.
Yeah,
bold.
we're
That's-
no longer
that's-
friends.
That's
Yeah.
4 words, I think.
I'm curious
no,
to see.
Yeah, I'm shocked. I'm shocked at how much I liked it. I really didn't expect to, but from episode 1 all the way to the end, it grabbed me. It didn't let go. I couldn't, I binged it, and I got really sad at the end. I wish there was more. I wish it was 20 episodes.
Wait, I'm sorry. So
That was-
are you're sadder about this ending than Rings of Power ending?
What do you mean sadder?
like
I'm sad that it's over.
yeah, but like it seems like you're more upset that Hot D's over and Rop is not over.
So
or
you're
is
saying you
over.
like Hot D more than Rop?
Yeah.
Yeah. That,
So
I
Hot D
did.
over
Yes.
Rop.
All right, Christian's
Yes.
a Hot D man.
All right.
Yeah. I'm a hot D.
He's a Hot D
guy.
man. He's a Hot D stand.
We should so when we
Yeah.
do our Andor pod, we should do the ranking of these two shows with Andor and She-Hulk because they were like the four big.
She-Hulk's at the bottom.
Oh yeah. I mean, I have to
don't
binge
know.
Andor.
I like She-Hulk.
Yeah, now I don't know.
That it would be a fascinating.
I'm just gonna
experiment.
say Andor at the top because there's no way it could get bad.
Oh boy, like, he just cursed us.
Oh, you just ruined it. Anyway,
Golly.
Arjuna was House of the Dragon season 1 and the finale. Were they good to you?
They were good. As I said at the top, Thrones is back. The Thrones franchise is back. I'm excited for what is to come. I'm kind of happy that there's going to be a break. Like, I think the distance makes the heart grow fonder. I think that with a larger gap of a year plus, there people will have time to get excited for the show. It feels like that Game of Thrones Sunday community has been built again. And
Are we gonna see pop-up bars now?
I'm sure,
definitely.
Look, I think this is going to fast track some more of those spin-offs that they kind of have going, and we're going to I hope we don't get the Star Wars method of like, here are a bunch of shows to watch, and it's going to be like a year-round thing, because I do think it's fun when it's like a special type of like 10-week run.
You mean the
every year or
Marvel?
so. And Star Wars now too.
Star Wars isn't too bad because there's like a couple of.
You've had 3 live-action Star Wars shows this year.
I only
Solo.
remember
That's a
one
lot.
of them.
Yeah. The good one.
I couldn't tell you what happened in Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Let me just say, Rocks.
Oh, there was that running sequence with Leia. That was stupid.
Shuffling, more like it.
And then there was that whole thing with the Inquisitor, I think.
There was the Inquisitor thing. I will say Obi-Wan started off well.
It started off great. But that's because we watched it on a 15-inch laptop screen, so
No,
we could barely see it.
No, that wasn't it. But yeah, both were good. I'm excited for the future. Ravi. House of the Dragon. Season 1,
Ooh.
episode 10.
Did we convince him?
And House of the Dragon, season 1. Were they good? I have a feeling you're going to be split on this.
Wow, yeah,
Oh.
you're right.
That's what I
Actually,
thought.
yeah. The finale was not good.
Right.
Like I said, that ending just took me way the hell out of everything. Like, it worked well. The pacing, the build-up, and everything was great. And then it was just like, chomp, and then flat, because the dragon fell and died. As a season, I think it is good. Yes, I think there were definitely there's more points that stood out than there were the boring yappity yap stuff. And again, I think it's also just because, and I'm probably gonna get shit for saying this, the cast that you had here in this first season stronger as a whole than the cast of Game of Thrones in season 1
Sure.
as a whole, and that's partially because
You had more established actors
exactly,
in this too.
yeah, yeah,
And they were all like they all showed up, and they were
Yeah.
all very, very
very,
good.
very good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, again, that's because a lot of the people that were in the start of Game of Thrones, that was their first big gig, or that was their first time, acting and being in something of that scale.
Some of the adult actors were known for other things, but
Yeah.
because like we were younger then, they were older
We were
actors.
10 years younger.
There were older actors we weren't necessarily as
Correct,
familiar with.
yeah. Yeah.
Versus this show, we're a little older now, so we're like, we know the Matt Smiths,
Yeah.
right? We know the Patty Considines
Yeah.
of the world. Like, oh, Hot Fuzz, oh, Doctor Who, oh, Terminator Genesis. I love that Terminator movie.
I will
Said
say
no
with
one ever on
Matt
the entire
with Matt Smith and Patty, there was an interview that they did where the interviewer asked them both like, how did you like audition for the role? And Matt Smith is like, yeah, I had to like send in an audition tape. And Patty looks at him and he's like, oh, they just called me and asked if I wanted it.
So Patty is actually a huge Thrones fan. He's
I
read
did
all
not
the
know that.
books. He's
That's
read
cool.
that, and then he actually tweeted out that George R. R. Martin was like it said something really like
Yeah.
positive about like his the role and everything. He's like,
Yeah.
you are Viserys, right? And
I would
he was
imagine
like, oh,
that-
that's all I need.
I would imagine that Martin, like when he's writing these, or when he used to write these characters, he had like, I'm sure he had like actors and actresses
Sure.
in mind, or performances in mind
Yeah.
for certain people.
For, what I also understand, Patty was also like pitching things to the directors and the writers of like, let's do this for
Yeah.
that scene and that scene, and I think some of those like smaller details made it in. That's cool. That was just nice to have him around.
The scene with the crown,
Yeah.
Daemon, that was
That was
kind of
improvised. Yeah. So he was always like very active.
I mean that you see
great.
that I think it's one of the big staples of it. So yeah, like I said, like yeah, for a whole season, yes, I think it's good. Finale still flat. I wasn't the best episode. It wasn't the strongest episode by far of that season.
I think 8 was the
I
strongest.
think 8 was the strong one. Yeah.
which was the whole family thing, which was Viserys' last as a living person.
Yeah, I
He
mean,
did appear in 9 as a corpse, as a rotting corpse.
He's a method actor. He put himself through the extreme.
Ravi, real quick, what point swayed you the most?
Oh, it has to be your statement on Matt Smith and becoming a Matt Smith dad. Once I heard that, I was like, yeah, he's right. Like at the very least, I can say the season is good. There was nothing really in that, like I said, like nothing you guys said to, unfortunately, like make me change my view on the finale. Like it was just a.
I will reveal this to our listeners. You were very conflicted after we watched.
Oh,
the finale.
100%. Yeah, I thought
You're
about
like,
it a
was
lot.
it good? Was
Yeah.
it bad? I don't know. You
Yeah.
were very like
Ravi,
very very much.
I have one last word to convince you that the finale was good.
Money?
Live action Pokemon. That's what it was.
Oh,
And if you look at it like that, it was fantastic.
that's actually pretty good. That's actually really good.
Oh, that's actually.
Wow. Live action Pokemon. Yeah.
And I think season 2 is going to be lots of Pokemon.
If
Arrax.
Do you think we'll see Direwolves?
real quick, we didn't talk about it too much, but like I'm not a fan of the opening scene. Like I like the
Oh,
music,
yeah.
but I don't like the animation. I think it's just not as interesting as like Game of Thrones. But Christian, if you can spend some time between now and the next season and recreate the opening, but with like the Pokemon theme tune, then I will be a House of the Dragon stan for life.
Interesting. Or would it be better to take like Pokemon footage and put the Game of Thrones theme to that?
You know what? You're making it, so you do it both ways.
Okay. I have over a year to do it, it sounds like. So
How do I launch iMovie? Actually, I'm going to use Windows Movie Maker.
yes.
From Windows
Lego
95.
Studios.
Yeah, Lego Studios. Do it all in stop motion.
Oh yeah.
like we do this podcast.
Yes. How we do the podcast. Well, we don't have to talk that way, do we?
Yeah, every frame is a different syllable.
And I think that's going to do it for us here on the Was It Good podcast. We are going to be back in about a week reviewing Lower Decks, Star Trek Lower Decks Season 3.
4.
And Season
4.
Oh, and 3.
No, it's 4.
Oh, wow. Time moves
Wait,
fast.
really?
Believe so.
I think it's 3.
I'm almost.
I thought it
positive.
was 3.
Oh, but maybe I'm wrong.
Either way, we're going to be reviewing the newest season of Star Trek's Lower Decks. We're also
Lower
going to be
Decks?
taking a stab at the new animated Star Wars Jedi Tales digital shorts out on Disney+.
It is season 3.
That's what I thought. And as always, you can find us on Twitter at Was It Good, on Instagram and TikTok at Was It Good Pod, and check out our full cuts on youtube.com/wasitgood. Till then,